What's going on, YouTube? My name is Jason. I am the GI Car Guy. Welcome back. I do apologize it's taken so long to get another video out. I've had some things going on, and I know it's been a minute, so I do apologize about that. I went to the Atlanta International Auto Show and just wanted to check out kind of what's new and coming out for 2025, and this is what I came across. So anyways, enjoy the video. Thanks for being here. Let's go. So the first car we came across was the Dodge Charger Daytona RT, or the Charger EV. These started making their way into the world at the end of 2024, and from what I've seen, these things aren't exactly a big hit. With the RT starting around $61,000, the Scat Pack is priced upwards of about $76,000 or more. While looking at current prices, most dealerships have the RTs priced in the high 40s, however with large discounts applied to the MSRP. I couldn't find any official numbers yet since they have been selling for less than 6 months at the time of recording, but it's safe to say that a new car priced nearly $20,000 less than sticker indicates they're not moving off the lot like dealerships would like. Beyond price, the RT makes nearly 500 horses, while the Scat Pack puts out 670. Stated 0 to 60 times are 4.7 seconds and 3.3 respectively, with the Scat Pack doing the quarter mile in 11.5 seconds. Some of the main features of the Daytona are launch control, line locks, a drift mode, and a donut mode. Dodge has even created a Fratsonic chambered exhaust, which is a fancy way of saying they're pumping out synthetic sound to try and mimic the rumble of a large American V8. Let me know in the comments if they should just nix the can sound. With all that being said, I honestly don't know what Dodge was thinking with this one. Well, actually, I probably do. They were thinking they'd hop on board the EV train like every other manufacturer, and that's fine. But why call this thing a Charger? Just call it something else. I don't think there's a single person out there that's been screaming for an electric version of an iconic muscle car anywhere. And while I commend Dodge for attempting to make this thing not effing lame, it just is. Unfortunately for Dodge, this is going to be one of those vehicles that history looks back on and asks, seriously? Next up in the Dodge corner was the Rebel RHO, and honestly, I think they're making another mistake with these as well. The RHO looks more like the TRX in Rebel than the traditional Ram 1500 Laramie. The giant difference is that these new Rams are going to be powered by a 3-liter twin-turbocharged inline-6, making around 540 horsepower. While nice looking, I have to ask, why are these trucks all being designed like they're going to be used for desert racing? They're so geared for performance and speed, it's as if they forget the basic function of what a truck is used for. You know, work stuff. At a starting price of $71,000, I honestly think this truck is just a flex for your friends. I really don't understand the point of these trucks, considering almost none of them will see the environment they were designed for. Moving over to the Ford's booth, one of the two big standouts is the 2025 F-250 Black Widow Edition. And by big, I mean Truckosaurus. This truck is absolutely massive with an equally gigantic 6.7-liter Powerstroke V8 turbo diesel engine. This monster puts out 500 horses and a ludicrous 1,200 pound-feet of torque. Ford describes this model as designed for both rugged work and a bold statement on the road. While that is a true statement, for over $130,000, who is doing any kind of rugged work with this thing? I'm not typically a Ford fan, but I actually do really like the way these things look. However, other than a pavement princess, what purpose does this truck have? While it is very well equipped and massively imposing, personally, I don't think I could ever justify having a truck like this that just sits in the driveway looking good. Moving on, sort of. Sticking with the theme of super trucks, this is a Truckosaurus Rex. The Ford Shelby F-250 Super Baja is another well-equipped monster that's been tricked out by Shelby American themselves. Thanks, Captain Obvious, it's in the name. The Super Baja maintains the same 6.7-liter Powerstroke V8 turbo diesel engine, but gets some pretty serious upgrades in the suspension department with a Fox Performance suspension. Several notable features in this package include a lift system, adjustable control arms, coilovers, and factory race adjustable shocks, just to name a few. 37s on 18s finish off the overall look. It gets a custom interior with recovered seats, stitching, and a few odds and ends, but it's basically the F-250 interior with a little razzle-dazzle. As with the Black Widow Edition, this truck is so expensive, over $154,000 to be exact, that I have to ask the question again, who is actually running this thing through the desert? Not many if I'd had to make a guess. Still in the world of Ford is the Ford Bronco Raptor. You can just tell this thing is all kinds of juiced up. Powering the Bronco Raptor is a 3-liter EcoBoost V6, putting out 418 horses. Designed for off-roading capabilities, though driven mostly on road, this 4-door only SUV comes with a Haas suspension sporting Fox dampers, as well as a robust skid plate, reinforced frame, and more aggressive wider stance. These things have been talked about a ton, so I'm not going to go super deep here. However, the price will absolutely put you in a deep hole. Well over $90,000 for the Bronco Raptor, and while really cool and most likely a really good time, there aren't many who could afford to roll this thing or smash it into a boulder. Moving on to the next display booth is a relative newcomer in the auto manufacturing arena, though a company that's been around since the late 90s. Honestly, the first time I saw one of these on the road, I thought it was a mid-90s Land Rover. It wasn't. This is the Ineos Grenadier. Unable to get parts from Land Rover to fix his personal vehicle, the owner of Ineos Chemicals, Jim Ratcliffe, decided to create his own boxy utilitarian off-road vehicle. And utilitarian it unmistakably is. Designed to live in an environment of dirt and rocks, this SUV reflects that inside and out. Meant to do it all, the Grenadier screams functionality. Maybe too much so. Looking at this thing up close, you can really tell they're built well. However, if you're looking for the latest and greatest teched out pavement princess, this isn't it. The interior, while nice, isn't blinged out like most SUVs. Even ones that are built as off-road vehicles still have most, if not all, the creature comforts one would expect from a modern vehicle. Powered by a 3-liter turbo inline-6 making 282 boxy horses and 332 pound-feet of torque, or a 3-liter turbo diesel inline-6 making 245 horses, but now 406 pound-feet of torque. Considering the Grenadier weighs in right at 6,000 pounds before any people or cargo are added, those power numbers seem a little underpowered for a vehicle that is designed to traverse some of the harshest environments on the planet. I am no rocket mechanic, that is just my opinion. Starting around $70,000, the Grenadier is not the most expensive SUV in the world, but let's be honest, it still costs a pretty penny. Moving on. There's a couple of vehicles to talk about over in Toyota Land, starting with the GR Corolla. Developed under the Gazoo Racing sub-brand for performance-inspired vehicles, I think this little 4-door hatchback is pretty cool. While not breaking any land speed records with its 1.6-liter turbocharged inline 3-cylinder, this little engine puts out a very respectable 300 horses and pushes it to 60 in 4.9 seconds. It comes with either a 6-speed manual or an 8-speed automatic with paddle shifters. I really like the design of the GR. It's sporty and practical with a lot of punch, which most certainly is a blast to drive. Spec'd out to over $48,000 for a small hatchback, this one is still on the pricey side. The new Camry's looking pretty good, if I'm being honest, but it's a Camry, so the Mark V Supra is still a Mark V Supra. Mark IV, we miss you. I think the Mark Vs look good, even if they do look a little too much like the Z4. Not a lot has changed with the appearance of the Supras. However, the main difference for 2025 is that the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine is no longer an option, leaving only the 3-liter turbocharged inline 6. The turbocharged 6 makes 382 horses and hits 60 in 3.9 seconds. That's actually slower than the automatic version of previous models with 47 less horses, getting it in at 3.7. It may be slower, but the level of driver involvement is reportedly much higher with the manual. Available in a 3.0 or 3.0 premium trim, the main difference is in the size of the infotainment systems, number of speakers, and other upgrade options that come standard on the premium. The interior is decked out with nice materials and appointments, however it is quite tight for larger drivers, that is for sure. While this thing is a blast to drive, getting over the $61,000 asking price is a very hard pill to swallow for a tiny 2-door sports car. I had to stop and look at the new 4Runner just because, while I love some of the older 4Runners, think late 90s, and even looked at getting one in 2009, I just don't like the evolution of their design. I don't like the factory rims, I don't like the 4-cylinder engine, even with the turbo hybrid option, and I really don't like the black plastic fenders. The interior is nicer and packed with more tech, but for this tricked out trim level, it's going to cost you $59,000. Sorry, this one's a hard pass for me. This is the last Toyota, I swear, and this is the new Land Cruiser. The new one looks pretty good and is a pretty faithful adaptation of some of the older models in look only. No longer offered in a V8, the new Land Cruiser is only offered in a turbocharged 4-cylinder version with an optional hybrid system, the same as the 4Runner. The new Land Cruiser is slightly narrower than its predecessors, making it more accessible to narrow trails, but priced at $71,000. Unless you just burn money to stay warm at night, who's taking this thing off-road? That was kind of the end of all the new manufacturer stuff, but they had some really cool vehicles here that local car collectors were asked to bring in and display for the auto show, and I got to take a look at some of them. We've got a beautiful 2020 Shelby GT500 looking menacing. Out of the box, this thing puts down 760 pony power. What an absolute monster. Followed up by a 2008 Shelby GT looking pretty in blue. There were some absolutely stunning Mustangs here, but unfortunately you couldn't get very close to them, but it was what it was. I met this really cool older gentleman that has what I think is one of the coolest sports cars ever made. A 1990 Nissan 300ZX twin turbo. His was actually a 2+2, which means it was a 4-seater and 8.5 inches longer overall. The 300ZX had a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 that made 300, very respectable for the early 90s, horses. The owner of this car has had it since it came out of the showroom 35 years ago and told me it's been incredibly reliable for him with minimal maintenance over the years. I think this 300ZX is incredibly clean, absolutely gorgeous, and has the trophies and ribbons to back it up. I really appreciate the owner taking the time to talk to me about his car. Right next to the 300Z was a very unique and very rare car. This is a 1957 Rolls-Royce EX44 Phantom 5. This Rolls is a one-of-one experimental vehicle built for Queen Elizabeth. This limo had 3-row seating with a foldable center row and was the first Rolls-Royce to have a V8, air conditioning, and electric windows. After 5 years, this car was auctioned off and ended up in the States, specifically my state, Georgia. Because this thing was an experimental version, it didn't have a MSRP, so to speak, to buy one in 1957. However, I did find its sale posting asking $150,000 towards the end of 2024, or it was going to go to auction. I couldn't find any further information, so it probably ended up in the $150,000 ballpark, give or take. Regardless, it's a very well-maintained vehicle and a really cool piece of history. Next up, we had two 2023 Aston Martin Vantages. One is a Roadster and the other a coupe. These aren't super exotic or anything, but pretty sweet if you ask me, and no one did. They are quite exclusive, however, and by exclusive, I mean the V12s. Only 333 were ever produced, and all were spoken for within days. You can tell that these two are V12s by the carbon fiber hood, or bonnet if you're a tea-drinking heathen. These Astons came in either a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 or a 5.2-liter twin-turbo V12. Originally priced starting around $147,000, the V12 completely 007'd out would run you over $300,000. I'm not much of a motorcycle guy, but these vintage bikes from what I'm assuming was the 70s and 80s were pretty nostalgic. I wasn't going to add these square body Chevys to the video, but this one was so over the top I just had to show it. I'm not going to pretend to know what all kind of work this thing has had done to it, but it's a lot to say the least. I'm pretty sure the flatbed is custom, as well as the plethora of custom CNC parts. They definitely don't look bolt-on. You wouldn't catch me driving it, but it's pretty neat nonetheless, and a lot of love went into it. The next car here is really cool and really rare. This beauty is a 1972 De Tomaso Pantera. Just look at this thing. I mean, really take it in. The design of this car just speaks to me. I even like the color. This one is incredibly well maintained and looks super aggressive, especially in the rear. The Pantera was assembled at the De Tomaso factory in Modena, Italy. It was a collaboration project between De Tomaso and Ford. Ford provided the 5.8-liter V8 power plant for the car, and if I'm guessing, provided some design inspiration with its striking resemblance to the GT40. Anyone else think it looks like the GT40? No takers? With that big, pretty V8 and the quad pipe sticking out the back, I bet this beauty just rips. Originally sold for around $10,000 in the early 70s, a pristine example sold at auction for $236,000 a few years ago. This, in my opinion, is a ridiculously cool car, and I love it. Last but certainly not least is a beautiful 1969 Oldsmobile Hearst Cutlass. This Cutlass has that iconic muscle car look of the late 60s that screams, we're going to melt some tires. With its 455 cubic inch V8, this tank of a car produced 380 American horses. This wasn't really my genre of vehicles, but damn, I can only imagine what it was like cruising one of these things back in its heyday. Even with only 914 of this model and trim ever made, The Hearst Cutlass sold for a staggering $4,100 back in 1969. For a flawlessly maintained example like this one, it would most likely draw well over $110,000. Really an awesome piece of American muscle. I know this video got super long, but if you made it this far, I really appreciate your time. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button for me. It just takes a second, and I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Stay safe out there, take care of each other, and enjoy the ride. Peace.